YouTube vinyl community, Roger Daltrey fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we are here today to talk about Roger Daltrey's 1977 solo album, One of the Boys. This is on cassette, because I don't have the record, but this is on cassette. Little tiny thing that holds music. We used to play these all the time back in the day. This is a really good album. I was kind of surprised by this one. I hadn't heard this before until fairly recently, so this was a new one to me. And I'm really stoked that I got it, because for me, this was like discovering a whole other side of The Who at this point, because, you know, Pete was doing his thing with Ronnie Lane for the Rough Mix album. They had just come off doing the Tommy movie and their 75 tour, and they were working on the Kids Are Alright movie. Gearing up for that, doing a couple of shows to record for the movie itself, which would come out the next year in '78. So, as The Who weren't putting out a whole lot of material, they were super busy. All of them were doing something at this point. Even Keith put out his 1975 or 6 solo album. So, that was 74. I'm sorry, I'm way off on that one. So, that was way earlier. But, regardless, they were all busy doing something. And in the meantime, Roger has gone on the record and said that a lot of his albums were treated like hobbies or projects just to do when he wasn't doing the Who stuff. Part of me can kind of see that, part of me can kind of not, because there's a lot of depth on this album, and a lot of really great song choices, and some strong writing, and some insanely strong players on this thing. Everyone from John Entwistle, playing bass on every song. Keith is on one of the songs. Eric Clapton is on here. I mean, the list goes on and on and on from there. It's just a fantastic array of incredible musicians, and Roger holds his own. There's no one person showing off over the other. I mean, this is definitely Roger's show, and it works really well for him. I think it's a great album. This thing came out in May of 1977. It was recorded throughout the end of '76 and into '77 at the Who studio. And Roger did his vocals in Paris, apparently because of like tax restrictions, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, he co-wrote a couple songs in this thing, and some of the songs were written by some big heavy hitters too, like Colin Blunstone from the Zombies wrote one, and Paul McCartney wrote one on here. So we know Paul. Several singles were also released from this album. Charting wise, didn't do much of anything. One of the songs on here, "Say It Ain't So Joe," which does have Johnny Heath on it, and Jimmy McCullough from Wings, very cool, there's a video for it too, that did hit number 20 in New Zealand. So, hey, alright. But in England, it didn't chart. Written on the Wind did chart, which is like a nice little piano ballad, hit number 46, which is a great video of Roger faking playing the piano, which is just great. But a good song nonetheless, kind of a nice little charming song. But, yeah, and then the title track, One of the Boys, had a great video of him dressed up as a punk and then as a mod, like a teddy boy, kind of going through his different eras of his life, which was kind of fun to watch. It's really not bad. But yeah, overall, really not a bad album. I was kind of enjoying this a lot. I didn't know what to expect going into it, because I'm familiar with a lot of Roger stuff, but this one was new to me, and I was excited to have something new that I hadn't really had years worth of delving into yet. So, kind of cool. The album opens up with a song called Parade, which is really nice. It's got kind of a bombastic, old school, sort of Victorian sound in the production, and sort of the big timpani style drums. You can picture like a traveling circus coming down the street with big elephants walking by, and confetti everywhere. That big happy atmosphere of the parade coming by, going through town. That slow crawl, lumbering sort of thing as people are cheering on. People throwing candy at you and stuff. The story in Roger's voice is really great. His storytelling abilities, no matter who he's singing for, whether it's Pete Townsend or himself or anybody else, he's a great interpreter of songs. And I think that's what makes his music so interesting to listen to, is he can interpret someone's story and make it his own. He makes that personal, he gives that personal touch to it to make it really, truly something special. Which I think is a lot of fun. And there's a great Queen-like guitar solo on this song, which I think is awesome. And John's bass is all over this album, like I said before, but this song in particular had a really great bass line. I like the drama that it evokes. There's lots of nice punches in the presentation and the production. And that nostalgic sort of atmosphere I think is cool. But very fun song to start the album off with. The record and the tape both start off with this song. On the LP, The next song is Single Man's Dilemma. On this tape, the second song is Doing It All Again. This tape is missing Written on the Wind, and I can't figure out why, but they switched some of the songs around in typical cassette tape fashion, but can't figure out why that song's not on here. It could have totally fit. So we're just going to go album order here. Single Man's Dilemma, written by Colin Blunstone, of the Zombies. Very cool. This is kind of like a country, western, poppy kind of trip. It works really well. Roger's definitely a big country music fan. You know, they ended up doing Ring of Fire at some point in the late 90s with The Who, so he's definitely got that country music gene in his blood there. But his voice is really soft and smooth here. There's some nice repeated refrains and cool little breaks that keep it catchy. I think the chorus is a lot of fun. That whole "Love to Take You Home with Me Tonight" refrain is great. It's kind of a happy, spirited, kind of a loose, carefree kind of song, and I think that spirit definitely is contagious. Kind of a fun song to listen to. Avenging Annie, hey, it's track 3 in this thing too. Look at that. Avenging Annie. This has the piano in this song in particular sounds like On the Dark Side by Eddie and the Cruisers, but you know, John Cafferty and the Beaver Brown Band. It's got that On the Dark Side kind of feel, which I'm wondering if that was an inspiration to them when they did that movie and soundtrack years later. Really propulsive drums on this thing, the wild acoustic guitar, Roger's happily screaming along. It kind of starts off slow and then builds up, which I always enjoy, that kind of change and momentum and tension and energy. John is doing his Boris the Spider voice, which I think is great to hear that come out. But it's a rocker through and through. I love the solo on this thing. Just a really fun track. The Prisoner. Hey, all right. And now we're cooking with gas here. It's track 4 also. A little bit more of that country flavor, and this was the song that actually inspired Mick Vicker, the movie. So this is when when Roger was reading the book about Mick Vicker's life, and was inspired by it and started writing this song, which eventually led to him creating the movie and doing the soundtrack. So this is like part 1 of Mick Vicker. So that's kind of cool. The chorus is nice, you know, just a sad man, not a bad man. Just the way he sings it is nice. That level down is kind of fun. Nice slide guitar, nice piano touches. Roger's in top form with his voice. Some rock moments that crash in, but overall kind of a chill song. Chill song. My slightly New York accent coming through there. Chill song. Leon, and side 1 of both the record and the tape. This is a slower rock ballad leaning on that classic rock sort of vibe, like the FM radio kind of feel. It's not bad. It's not my favorite song on here. The storytelling is the main focus. It's definitely a story song. The guitar leads on this thing sound like Dave Gilmour, but I don't think it's him. But definitely somebody sounding like Dave Gilmour anyway. Again, not my favorite song on this one, but not bad. One of the Boys. This is a very fun track. It opens side 2 of both the record and the tape. It was written about Roger Daltrey, and the guy who wrote it ended up doing his own version later on too, but it's about Roger, and Roger singing about himself, which is kind of fun. You know, it's a good time feel kind of rock and roll song. It's just very loose drums. Roger's giving it his all. It's just a straight up rock and roll song, and the video is kind of fun to watch too. There's different versions of Raj over the years, you know, playing different versions of himself. Really kind of cool. Because I had seen that picture of him in the punk outfit for years and never really knew where it came from. Until recently, when this tape landed in my life. Giddy. Now this song is great. This is one of my favorite songs of the album, if not my favorite song of the album, because this is the one that Paul McCartney wrote. And if you have the deluxe version of the Ram album on CD, there's this track on there called Rode All Night, or Ride All Night. And that song was the influence and basis for this track, Giddy, on this album. So Paul took that bit and used it as the chorus, and then the rest of the song is a little bit different, but there's so many changes on this song, and so many like dynamic shifts, that makes it a really fun and interesting song. I love the drums, I love Roger giving his absolute all in the chorus, because if you've heard McCartney's version, you know, Rode All Night, he's screaming his arse off. And to hear Roger do that, it's like, okay, now we're talking. So very, very cool. I love that change in time once in a while. I love that break. I love the momentum that carries this thing through. Absolute rocker through and through. Very cool track. Then you get, Say It Ain't So, Joe. This really isn't a bad song. I could have seen this song definitely charting in other countries besides New Zealand. I mean, I kind of seen it easily in America, because it fit in with that sort of classic rock, sort of what we now call classic rock vibe. That rock radio vibe of the time. It's got some nice acoustic guitars. It's got almost a tinge of a Lynyrd Skynyrd guitar in there somewhere. I'm using that term very loosely. But, you know, Keith's drumming is really restricted on it, but John's bass is definitely nice and boomy. And Jimmy McCullough's guitar playing is fantastic. He's always been a fantastic guitar player, was always a fantastic guitar player. It's really not bad. I mean, again, it's not one of my favorite songs on the album, but it stays in your head. That chorus of "Saying It So, Joe," you know, it just stays in your head. Yeah, not bad. And then "Written on the Wind" is not on this cassette, but it's on the LP. Very sweet, catchy song, and I'm surprised that it wasn't on this album on tape. I'm wondering if that would have influenced the charts at all, because it did chart in England, hit number 46. I wonder if it was on this thing. I mean, at least it was on the album, on the LP, but on tape, maybe more people were starting to buy tapes by this point and just didn't know about that song, and that way they never would have, you know, held it as a single. But of all the songs on this album, I found it very interesting that that's the song to chart. It always blows my mind when like a big heavy rock guy has a soft ballad that totally dominates the chart. But you know, it's not bad. Nice pianos. It's also for me, this song has like a kind of a pub traditional feel. Like you just picture a bunch of people at a pub singing the song together. Maybe that's just me. Satin and Lace, the last song on this album, but not the last song on this tape. The last song is actually Single Man's Dilemma, which is kind of a bizarre way to end. I think Satin and Lace is a much better ending. A song that Roger did right. He co-wrote it. Very bluesy, sort of jazzy tune. Roger is singing it sweetly, but he also builds up throughout this thing towards the chorus. This could have been a single too. I wouldn't call it like a #1 single, but it could have been a single. It could have done pretty well in the top 20 anyway. You know, it's just a pleasant song. Roger holds his own in a kind of a genre that's not really expected of him, and I think he does a fantastic job, kind of like working in that medium and working to the best of his abilities with the music that's there underneath him, and not only relying on just a big rock guitar with a crazy drummer and a loud bassist. He can do other genres of music just as well without those guys. The sax solo was really cool. I feel like it's kind of nowhere, kind of out of nowhere, because compared to the rest of the album, there's a sax to be heard, but boom, hey, there it is. So that's kind of cool. But let me show you the inside of this tape. This is an original one from the 70s, so it's pretty cool. So you got, I don't know they were still doing this stuff at the time, but you got the old paper sticker on this thing. So was not expecting to see that. Sorry for giant fingers there. This is cool. It just shows like, hey, you can go out and buy Roger's other albums. And here's some more MCA albums you could buy. Overall, the tape is kind of grayish or black. I wonder if that's a chrome tape. Huh. Interesting. Might not be, but overall, this definitely was an album that took me by surprise. Having heard a bunch of his other albums, and I haven't heard all of them yet, but having heard a bunch of his other ones and then getting into this one, this, for me, it's almost like a Roger and John solo album, because John plays bass on every song and does the Boris the Spider voice on a couple of tracks. So I wouldn't call it like a Lost Who album. I think Big Vicar is more of that, but it's definitely got elements that make it sort of the Who canon, you know, with those people playing on it, all these other famous people on it as well. It's a fun album. I don't think it's essential by any stretch of the imagination. I do love the cover, you know, Roger and you know, looking at himself, which is actually the back of his head twice in a mirror, kind of cool. Giving this thing a rating, I'd probably give it a 6 or a 7 out of 10. And you know what? I'd give it a 7. I think it's a really good album. It's not something I'm going to go back to all the time, but songs on here like Parade, Avenging Annie, One of the Boys, Giddy, and I do like Satin and Lace. So there's a handful of tracks on here that are really, really decent and would make me come back. But overall, the whole thing, I'm not sure how much I'm going to be playing this thing, but it's fun to have on in the background. It's definitely a lot of catchy moments, some really interesting playing, and some really great production on this thing as well. So 7, I'd go with a really heavy 7 or something on this thing. For 1977, let's go with a 7. There we go. So my name is Giggens. This is an album reviews with Roger Daltrey, One of the Boys, on MCA Records and Tapes, 1977. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.